So first, I'm just going to provide you some language to have these types of conversations. We absolutely expect that all of you will have your own way of saying these things and starting these conversations. But we have found that students we work with regularly find it helpful to have sort of a template of how could you start this type of conversation. And just to let you know, these bits of text are in the landing page as well, so you can come back to them. So for example, I'm going to walk you through a few different examples. How to have a discussion about expectations in general. You could say something like, I was wondering if you have time to talk about expectations for me during my student employment. I want to ensure I'm clear on all my work tasks and that I'm meeting expectations. My understanding was that your expectations of me are, and you would want to make sure you list them out, what you already know. Is that correct? Is there anything I'm missing? So kind of creating a nice open door of making sure like you've told them what it is you understand is expected of you, and you're giving them a space to fill in any gaps that maybe you don't know. One of the things in these types of conversations is that it is really important during the conversation, if possible, to follow up on any expectation that may be not completely clear. So for example, if your supervisor said, I want you to become independent in doing X, right? That's like you have a job task and now they want you to become independent in that. Independence can mean a lot of different things to different people. And so a suggestion for a reply might be, great, I would love to be able to achieve that goal as well. Can you please explain what independence would look like? How will I know I'm sufficiently independent performing X? So you can hit some metrics about specifically what do they mean. Does that mean doing it without anybody else in the office? Does that mean doing it, right, like building something brand new on your own? Again, independence can vary a lot from person to person, and for task to task, what independence might look like. And then following up with something like, thank you so much for your feedback and time. Going forward, I will, and again, repeating back what they explained to you, and your plan to achieve that. So you make sure that the conversation you heard something, you want to make sure you reiterate that back so that they know what you heard, because we all hear things differently and take in information differently. So that's one example. A second example would be maybe around how to ask about a specific job task or skill. And so here the language is slightly different, but just to give you another flavor, it could be something like, I was wondering if you have time to talk about whatever given job task. I realized I'm not quite sure how I'll know when I'm proficient at this task. Couldn't we discuss my progress on that task, how I should best track my progress, and how I can continue to improve? So again, opening a door to make sure that you can get feedback and figure out how you're supposed to move forward, and whether you're meeting that expectation with that specific task. Again, I would encourage you to do follow-up questions to make sure that there's clarity in there during the conversation, but that it should also be that conversation should end with, again, a thank you. Thank you for your feedback and time. Going forward, I will, and then reiterating what it is that they said to you. So you're both on the same page. Another example on this is a little bit different on if you want to have a discussion about how you'll be evaluated, if that's something you haven't clarified with your supervisor. A potential conversation might be, I'm excited about the skills I'm building this semester. I was wondering if there are criteria by which my work will be evaluated so that I know how proficient I am at each skill, or how skillful I am at each skill, and how I should present them on my resume. Again, if additional information is provided, in this case, hopefully evaluation criteria, you want to make sure you clarify for yourself what they mean by that information. So for example, if your supervisor said something like, you're proficient at X when you can do Y. The response might be, great, thanks so much for that information. How soon do you think I'll be able to reach that level of proficiency? That might give you a timeline for when they're expecting you to hit a particular milestone. And would it be possible for me to see examples of why? So you can get a really clear, depending on what it is, but you get a really clear idea of what proficiency means for that particular task, or skillfulness for that task. And then again, of course, ending with, thank you so much for your time and for explaining this to me, and then repeat the information about how you're expecting now to be evaluated, and then potentially also how you're planning to move forward. This last set of dialogue is really around creating an open dialogue for feedback. So so we've been talking about sort of where there might be gaps or misunderstandings, but sometimes we just want to know where we're at. Maybe there isn't a specific thing you want to ask about, but you haven't gotten a lot of feedback recently about what you're doing well or places where you could improve. And it's always nice to open the door to that, to bring that in, because the more we get feedback, the more we can progress more quickly. So possible language around this might be, I want to ensure that I'm currently fulfilling what is expected of me. Am I doing so? How can I improve? And it could just be that last piece, just how can I improve, right? There's always ways all of us can continue to improve. So you can open that door for feedback. Again, if there's suggested improvements, make sure you're clear about how you're going to achieve them or what that looks like to your supervisor. For example, if your supervisor said something like, I want you to try to ask questions only when necessary. Your response might be something like, definitely. Can you please define what a necessary question would be or provide examples of those? Are there times and ways you'd prefer I ask questions? How often should I be checking in with you each day? And just building clarification around whatever additional information they're providing for you. And then again, thank you so much for your feedback and time. Going forward, I will, and then repeat what they have said back to them. So you make sure you're on the same page.